What's your definition of success? Has it morphed and changed over time, or has it remained the same? Well, my guest today had a dream of playing in the NFL, and he achieved that dream. But he has learned that success comes in many forms and is now chasing a new dream. Welcome to Beyond the Lens and my interview with Landon Turner. Well, thanks for being here today, Landon.
Yeah, thanks, Marlana. How you doing?
I'm doing well.
We just,
So
we just talked a little
tell us,
bit.
tell us how'd you first know that you wanted to play football?
I first knew. I think I knew I wanted to play football before I can actually remember, and that might be a true statement. Funny story that my mom likes to tell. Uh, I started walking and I was like 10 months. I think is what she claims. But I would when I could start walking and running. I when I was like about a year old, I had this little pastime. I loved to like go tackle my mom, and my grandma would hear me coming and just, like would legitimately have to like warn my mom because I would be coming full force and try to tackle her to the ground. And I was a little strong even then. So I think it was always kind of. I think I might have been born with it. I love football. I love playing football. It's a lot of fun. Always has been. My dad played. It kind of runs in the family. So um, I think maybe the first conscious memory is after playing flag football as a first grader and thinking that it was super lame and I needed to get into into the real thing. So I started playing when I was in second grade, when I was 7, like contact football.
So what
So
do you love about it?
Uh, it's hard to explain, and you think I have more wisdom on it after 26 years of life, but I think you got to be a little crazy because it's a vicious game and it's not comfortable. Um, I think I've always enjoyed the the competition, probably from a high level, but just the kind of warrior mentality, kind of this camaraderie, like us and ours versus you and yours type of game um that really drew me in. It's just something about being out there and competing with people, and a lot of people make military um parallels to
Mhm.
football, and I've always been careful with that because there's a lot less at stake on the football field than there is in a war zone. But a lot of the principles truly are the same, and I really think that that resonated. And I think it just having that kind of this platoon that you go out and play with, and having guys in your foxhole is really cool thing. I won't say it's unique. I feel like everyone would say that because I didn't play other sports, but I do know locker rooms and how awesome that can be to just be with a bunch of guys with different backgrounds and just kind of be above all of that. I don't
Mm.
know. That's the deep answer. The easy answer is I just love hitting people. But I felt like I needed a little more meaning than that.
So tell us about your career. Where'd you go to college and how'd you get into the NFL?
Uh, yeah, so I went to college at the University of North Carolina. Go Tar Heels. Not necessarily a football school, but we're on the up and up, and I loved it. It was a lot of fun. I would, if I did it again, if I had to do it again, I would do the exact same thing. Um, I played there for 5 years. I was a fifth year guy. Couldn't get enough school. I played 4 years. Started three and a half of them. and had a good career there. After that, I went into the combine, had a successful senior year, went to the combine, didn't do so hot at that, and pulled my hamstring, so that wasn't ideal. So a little rocky getting into the NFL. I did not get drafted, but I did get signed by the Saints, the New Orleans Saints. Um, got the phone call probably about 5 minutes after the draft. So it's like, you could have called me a couple hours earlier, but it's cool. They still got me in, and I played in New Orleans for 2 years. I was on the roster the first year, and then practice squad the second year, and then didn't make the team the third year. And then I started bouncing around a little bit, and a couple weeks here, a couple weeks there, and that was kind of the end of it. A little unceremonious, but that's the overview of my career.
What would you say your favorite moments were?
There's a lot. It's a lot of years of football and a lot of really cool experiences, um, that I'm very grateful for, because a lot of people didn't get the chance to do that. Most of the favorite moments that come to mind are, funnily enough, for like the things that were done off the field with with my teammates. Adventures in Charlotte during the Belk Bowl. Um, getting into trouble with those guys. Trouble. Um, the Disney, the Orlando. We had a bowl game in Orlando once, and the Disney, going to Disney and being way too big for everything, and then somehow my 6'7", 310-pound friend getting on Space Mountain, which I didn't think was possible, and then the guys behind him said that, yeah, I think he nearly got decapitated like 3 times. It was very, very traumatic.
Yeah, I don't think you're exactly built for the teacup rides.
Not quite, not quite, but it is hilarious though. It's there's so many like stories and experiences that you have, like with these guys, with shared adversity, that there's just a lot of cool camaraderie, that comes from that. So like a lot of my favorite moments are things like that. In the NFL, we would have, every time we would go somewhere in the hotel Saturday night, we would have all our meetings, and sometimes like a lot of people would go to their hotel or to their room, but they'd always have like snack. They call it a snack. It's like a whole meal. It's like a buffet of food. It's kind of ridiculous, but that would be available after the meetings at like 9 o'clock. So instead of going up, there was a group of us that would kind of hang out, and we would just, you know, shoot the bull and talk. And those conversations, those like table side conversations, are really cool. You got to know a lot of different people. Just got to hear stories about, guys that had played. You get to hear stories about coaches that were crazy. Those were some of my favorite moments. Getting to know those guys and talk to them, and locker room moments. And I'm almost done. um, the like one time during training camp, which is always the worst time of the year. It sucks. It's like 15-hour days of football for a month. And I remember being towards the end of it once, and in college, like it happened in college and pros, but like the coaches would throw a bone every once in a while. And at the end of the camp, it would be like, hey, instead of going to practice, we're going to do this. My Larry Fedora's first year at North Carolina, we like got ready for practice. Like we're in like full like cleats, pants, shoulder pads, helmet, everything. We get out there, we start practice, everything's normal. It's the dead of summer. It's like 100 degrees.
In
We're
North
all
Carolina.
North Carolina. We're all like hot, tired, pissed, because we've been seeing each other for too long, like in this very isolated space. And like camaraderie, yes, but you get anybody together too close for too long, you start hating each other a little bit. So everybody's kind of cranky, and then he like brought everybody up, and no one somehow had noticed like the 4 buses pulling up, um, like outside of the field. I guess they were kind of hidden behind the gate. And he said, "You guys have I can't remember exactly how many minutes. He's like, you guys have 3 minutes. I'll say 3 for the sake of the story. He's like, you guys have 3 minutes to get into those buses and go to the movies, or else we're going to finish practice. And everybody took off. And I don't think I've ever been as fast. I wish he'd come and told me that before I ran the 40 at the combine, because we took off. And mind you, we all went to the movie theater in football pants, cleats, and shoulder pads. We left them in the bus, but it was interesting. I think we watched the Bourne, one of the Bourne movies, but the one not with Matt Damon, with Jeremy Renner, I think is his name. So those are like the fun stuff that happens. And then like the NFL, I remember one practice, the coach sent us into the tent, like the offensive line and defensive linemen in the tent to like chill out. And then when we got in there, like the coolers were full with a bunch of beer. And then the coach like came in and was like, our offensive line coach is like, you guys gonna drink that or not? And we're like, well, I think one guy just like went for it. And we started kind of like drinking beers in this tent like mid-practice. And it was like the last day of camp. So we were all like, well, let's just roll the dice, either we get this time off and we can drink these beers, or we drink these beers and feel really crappy for the rest of practice, who knows? So we like started doing that. We're all like drinking, we're like laughing, but trying to keep calm, so we don't know, like, if I remember correctly, we didn't know if it was like cool or not. And then I remember the owner came into the tent, and we were all like, huh. It's like the beers there. We're like hiding the beers, like everyone hid their beers real quick, and he was like, what are you guys doing? And it was nothing. He's like, he's drinking that beer. And we were like, yeah. And he basically was like, yeah, it sounds good. So it was planned for us. We got there, we got to jump on it, but it was like planned, like everybody to get a beer after practice or something like that.
And in that quick moment, you went from being of legal age to being,
Yeah,
16
like high
and
school,
trying
man.
to.
Just sneaking it. It was funny. Those are my favorite moments, And then, I would be remiss not to mention, running out of the tunnel in the Superdome is a really cool experience. And I don't say that as to brag. I just say it out of like pure gratefulness. I never let anything, or never let myself take anything for granted. Maybe it was because I was undrafted. It's mostly because I just try to have a heart of gratitude and thankfulness, because I'm led to. And that extends to experiences like that. I remember being in the tunnel, and I did it in my senior year as well, but being in the tunnel and being like, I'm going to absorb every little thing about this moment that I can. And then running out to the dark stadium and then into like light. It's cool to be part of that production, So yeah, those are like, I know that that was a lot, but it's hard to like pin down, like, yeah, that was my favorite moment, just because there's so much to be thankful for in my career in
That's
football.
great.
Yeah.
So with that story about the tunnel, that kind of leads me into my next question, which is, what did success look like to you then?
Success looked like a very, very simple definition of, am I playing football? Am I on a team? Am I getting on the field or not? Especially my rookie year, which I really struggled through because I was on the roster, which I should have been more thankful for. But I was on the roster and I was frustrated because I wasn't getting opportunities to play. And my success was rooted very much in how often are you in and how well are you stacking up to those around you. So that's what it looked like to me at that time.
So did you see the end in sight, or did it catch you by surprise?
A little bit of both. I did not see it my rookie year, and we're doing fine, but if I could go back and do it again, I would make I was very cautious and not getting up on 30 for 30, which ironically, not ironically, but it didn't help me. I kind of like clutched and misered everything. If I could go back, I would make some more sound investments, like not sound investments, actually make investments in some things. So I didn't see it coming my rookie year. I knew it could happen, but I got kind of sucked in because I was in high school. I played in an All-American game in high school. I went to college. I redshirted a year, but then was starting by the end of the next year. And then I started the rest of my career there. And then I didn't get drafted, but I made the team. So I got right back into that invincible, everything's going to be fine because my mind is to it mentality, which there's nothing wrong with as long as it's tempered. But that was why I didn't see it really coming then. And then, but I will say, like my second year, I didn't make the team, and that was kind of my first like, wait a minute, something's not something's not as guaranteed as I'd like it to be. And you kind of know intellectually, but emotionally and maybe even spiritually, you don't feel that way.
Well, you
Um,
figure there's a long shot really in making the NFL to begin with,
mhm.
because there are so many people that don't. And then making it a long-term career is even less likely.
Right.
But you and I had talked once upon a time about how we're often told that if you want something badly enough, or if you work hard enough, you can achieve it. And that's not always the case.
Hmm. Right. And that's what I was alluding to a little bit. And I do get frustrated with such a um, choose your term, reduced, oversimplified um, type of approach to success. And this is more of a recent wisdom because for a long time I bought into that. And there's a lot of merit to it. Let me very clearly express that. But my belief in my experience says that it's an incomplete picture of what success is, because there are going to be times I didn't work any less hard. There's a way better way to say that. I didn't. I did everything that I needed to do and then some. Right. Um, and especially in the context of the NFL, everyone there is is there because they have the ability to do it, and they're there because they have the work ethic and drive to do it. No one, I'd be hard pressed, with the exception of maybe some freak athletes, to find anyone in the NFL that hasn't sacrificed a ton to be there, along with having the ability to do it. And the reality in life is that there are going to be times where you did everything that you could, you put your mind to it as hard as you could, and you're not going to make it. And from a certain perspective, you'd be like, well, you're just giving up, or you should keep pushing. It's like, again, oversimplified, very dangerous, because on many things. But if I keep pushing, what about the other things in my life? Is it worth sacrificing? In the context of my football career, I'm married. I have a family to take care of. It would be very selfish to keep pushing because I can put my mind to it when I have a lot of other opportunities and things that I can do. And I think that's, as I'm talking about it, I think that's part of the problem with that is it's a very binary is or isn't type of mindset. Like, this is the only thing I can do
Mm-hmm.
to be successful, and that's why I think it's incomplete. I think you should approach it with that invincible attitude, but temper it with wisdom and reality of, if I don't make it, it does not mean that is not the end all be all,
Right.
right? Work as though you're putting your mind to it and that you can achieve it no matter what, but also be prepared and steel yourself for if it doesn't, because there's so much more that you can do.
Mm.
I mean, there's just so many doors out there,
Right.
truly.
So what mental shifts do you think you had to make?
I had to I had in the root of that is the root of that whole issue is identity. And I had to kind of pull myself out of my football identity. Because I had played it for so long, because it had been so ingrained, because I had been so successful at it, over time it kind of became like, this is Landon, the football player. I even One thing that always sticks with me is I remember doing an interview in college and talking about all these things that I like to do and how I like that to reflect on my brand. And the reporter straight up called me out. He's like, "That's kind of interesting because all your posts is football and pictures of you playing." And I remember getting angry, but in hindsight, I mean, he was completely right. Like 90% of my posts were pictures from the game the night before. And so the point being, because identity is the root of it, I had to shift my mentality as like, I can be successful in more than just football. And
Mm-hmm.
even while I was playing, it's like, I'm going to continue to, very important, I'm going to continue to approach this game every workout, every opportunity, as if this is like, I'm putting my mind to it, I can achieve anything. But while I was doing that, because if you're doing it, you should have enough time. All right. So while I was doing that, I started to like lay a foundation and get out and meet you and meet other people locally and just be like, I don't really know what I like or what I want to do. Let me go ask other people and see what else there is out there. And I shadowed that. I shadowed at a software company called Teamworks, um, and I never forget because they had me shadow in every department, and I remember leaving that experience being like, there's a ridiculous amount of things that I could do. Like my problem went from I have no idea what I want to do to what should I do? Like where should I go? And so just shifting that. I said, I mean, I hate to be as simply spoken as opening and closing, but that's kind of how it is. I just kind of opened up my mind to being more than just football. And I'm very proud of you. If you could look in my office, I'm not going to do it. We just moved in here. I've got some of my football stuff behind me on my right here, but um, I'm very proud of all my football things, and I'm very thankful for that phase in my life. But I had to make a switch, and I did see it. And I'm kind of going back to an earlier point here, but I did see it coming um, after the Saints cut me and then didn't bring me back on practice squad. That was when I was like, man, this I'm not out of this, and I'm gonna keep working because all you need is one break.
Mm-hmm.
Because everyone in the NFL is so everyone that's in the NFL deserves to be there, and everyone's work ethic is one that got you there.
Right.
So the margin of talent is very slim outside of the ones that come to mind when you think of the NFL, right? Um, and I kind of lost my train of thought a little bit
Well,
on that.
let me then ask you this. That kind of goes into it. What does success look like to you now?
Oh, word. Well, success now kind of looks at it's way more fluid. Might be the best way to put it. Um, and it can be difficult because even though I look at it differently, I look at it like I'm successful in more intrinsic in like how I'm doing and less on how others I perceive others to be successful. Um, so success right now looks like what's the next thing that I want to do. That's all it is, and then I'm gonna be great at that until it's time not to be anymore, and I'll be great at the next thing. That's kind of how success is framed in my brain now. It's like more flexible,
Mm,
not compromising, not settling, but flexible.
that's
Um,
good.
I 100% expect to be the best software developer um, ever. Maybe, I don't know. I'm working towards it, and that's the attitude. But if something happens, or if there's a career change that I need to be made, or there's just any adjust, it's open for adjustment. Um, but still largely the same. I would just say it's got a caveat now, right? I have a more grounded view of what success is, and that doesn't mean I don't. I still sometimes slip back into like, well, I didn't do this, or I didn't get this, or didn't do that, and like these guys are still playing. I should be playing. I'm not immune to that. Far from. I um, think about it often, but I don't let it drag me down,
Mhm.
because I can't. There's too much opportunity, and there's just a lot of cool stuff. There's a lot of cool stuff to do outside of football, and that's my story. But I guarantee you, if you're really absorbed in something and you're falling short for whatever reason, or things aren't going well, it doesn't have to be that thing. Like, there's a lot of opportunities out there, and people change. The world, everything changes. Nothing is static. And I think, even as I talk, I think I could probably sum up how to view success as being ready to change
Mhm.
at a drop of a dime, because that's kind of how life is.
Mm. Well, what do you think your football career taught you that you will always take with you?
Mm, that's honest. That's a lot of things, and they're very cliche, but it's very true. Work ethic, teamwork, leadership. Um, the biggest thing I think the biggest thing I'm thankful for is operating with a team. I already love people, so that comes a little naturally. I enjoy talking, and I don't know if you can tell, I enjoy talking and hanging out with people. Um, but I really learned in that little microcosm of a team, and teams that I played against, like what works and what doesn't when it comes to like teams.
Mhm.
And I've seen, fortunately, what leadership, how that works, and what works and what doesn't. And I think I'm those lessons on how to be a better team player, and how to improve teams and manage teams, and just be a team, because I think that's the thing I'm most thankful for, because you'll find it everywhere. You'll find it in every aspect. Um, and I think it's very important. So yeah, I'm gonna go with the team and not ramble.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
then one last question. If you could go back and talk to the guy that started this journey, knowing what you know now, what would you tell him?
Hmm. I would tell him, I would go back to our picture of success, and I would tell him to be flexible and not get too absorbed in that identity. Um, and I would tell him how to do it, by like chase everything down as fervently as possible. Approach it like you cannot be stopped, like you're invincible in those moments that it matters, right? So in that particular example, when you're in the weight room, when you're running, when you're in class, everything is about the same, right? Take the extra time to not sit on your laurels, or just be absorbed in football, and like peek take a peek at the other things, and kind of build a foundation of what you might want to do after football, because it is not guaranteed. And that's not the only thing where it's not guaranteed. Life just generally is not guaranteed. So I would tell him, keep chasing your dreams with the same passion, but don't let it consume you. And take a step back and enjoy everything. Because I have so many hobbies. My wife complains about it. I want to do a podcast. I want to train kids to play football. I play a lot of video games. I have literally every game. Since I have a computer here, I got a PlayStation right here on my left. The Xbox is in the other room. I like to write. I mean, I could keep going. And this is like, I think, I believe, my belief is that it's kind of been a backlog of a bunch of things that I like to do that I really didn't give myself permission or time to like enjoy when I could have. So yeah, the last thing I tell them is don't get too wrapped up in you're too busy and like this needs all of your time, because I would let that be an excuse a lot. And I don't regret it, but if I could go back, I would approach it differently.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, Landon, I wish you nothing but the best. I think you are going to do amazing in whatever you do. And it has been a pleasure talking to you today. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thank you. Thank you. I had a lot of fun. I enjoyed it myself.
My job as a photographer is to see things in a different way, to create reactions, to frame what is seen so we can better understand. Here we take a look beyond the lens of what we may think we see or know about people, events, and situations. To subscribe, please join my mailing list, visit my YouTube channel, or look for Beyond the Lens on Spotify, Stitcher, and Apple. I'm honored by the people I work with. If you'd like to talk about shaping the way you are seen in photographs, please schedule a call. I'd love to hear from you.